Welcome, everyone. I'm Tracy Fitzpatrick, and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at NETCOM Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions. We are very excited to host today's event, Tips and Tricks to Optimize Your Revit Experience. And presenting today's topic is Roger Mujica. Roger is an AutoCAD subject matter expert with over 12 years of experience in architecture, engineering, manufacturing, structural, civil, and MEP drafting and construction documents. He has extensive knowledge in AutoCAD, BIM, Revit, 3ds, and much more. And he has provided a world-class expertise and training on the latest trends and workflows for BIM and CAD platforms. He has delivered a number of trainings on essentials, intermediate, and advanced 3D modeling in latest versions of AutoCAD. Now, please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic. We offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored to your specific requirements. If you are interested in a further discussion, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session is also being recorded, so you'll get free access to the recording in the next 24 hours via email. NETCOM Learning helps customers build innovative learning organizations by achieving a smarter workforce, adapting to change, and driving growth. We do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we have been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges. We have 9 practice areas in which we specialize. They encompass people, process, and technology training. Today's presentation is from the Architecture and Design practice area. NETCOM Learning offers a comprehensive training portfolio of courses for the topic being covered today. Our upcoming classes include various trainings on the given courses. You can also access a variety of marketing assets, such as the free training and blogs, by clicking on the available event handout. These offerings can be found with a simple search on our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session is designed to help you grow and polish your Autodesk Revit skills for higher quality and better coordinated architectural design, construction, and structural engineering. And now I would like to give you a quick overview of the logistics before we get started. To begin with, you do have the option to view in full screen by clicking on the full screen button on the right side of the GoToWebinar viewer. Simply hit the escape key to exit the full screen. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters. Feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenters here in the questions pane, and we will address them at the end of the session. And to get the best out of today's events, we've included the slides, courses we talk about, and marketing assets in the handout section of your GoToWebinar viewer. You may refer to them at any time to get a better understanding of today's topic. And we do realize that some of you may have to leave early and want to let you know that as you do leave the session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to take a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience and improve our future sessions for you. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. And now I'd like to pass this over to our trainer to present today's topic. Hey, Roger, thank you so much for joining us today.
Welcome to the webinar. I'm glad to be here, tips and tricks to optimize your Revit experience. So I'm excited to share this information with you. And without further ado, let's talk about what we're going to be discussing in this webinar. Interestingly, we're going to be talking about BIM and Autodesk Revit, which is usually two terminology that they go hand in hand, and many people get a little bit confused on those. I'm going to clarify that for everybody and get to know a little bit the workspace and navigating in the interface of Revit Also, it's going to be something that we're going to be talking here, exploring what would be the project setups and how can we actually go for the model creation in Revit will be something that it, it will be covered as well here, and overview of the building elements. So sometimes in Revit, that terminology, building elements, components, and all of that kind of new terminology is overwhelming for some people. Finally, I'm excited to share with you some shortcuts and time-saving techniques in Revit that many of you might find it very interesting to kind of then use it in your workflow daily. But let's talk about being. So what is that terminology that usually we connect with Revit? So Revit and being always are two words that we listen very often, and they are actually connected. So we need to understand that being is the main reason why we should be creating, any building right now, because what happened is that now building information modeling is what controls now the information that we can connect in the elements that we use in Revit. So basically, build information modeling is a database linking one object linking data with another object, and then that is what it creates the 3D model in Revit. So being is, like I always say, is the core, engine core of Revit. So that being said, then many people ask the question, and also then what is Revit? So Revit is a product from Autodesk that uses the BIM platform. Like I said earlier, so if we understand that BIM, building information modeling, is a data set with a data set of information between the elements of the building, then Revit is kind of the drive that connects all of that data, all of those elements into a BIM model, 3D model in the computer, create then, building design, documentation, and everything that we do with Revit. So the even from the very conceptual studies of the building creation analysis that we can create, BIM is on the ground, but helping us with Revit is going to be the way that we can connect all of these elements of a building. And we know elements are walls, doors, columns, and structural elements. All of those elements are connected together in Revit. Can can and then in Revit we can actually do this. We can design, collaborate, and visualize our projects. So in the design phase is when we connect all of these elements, connect the elements that we use in any building, whatever the discipline that we're working, and then we can even go to the point to generate documentation from the Revit. That's why Revit becomes very, very powerful tool for AI, AEC industry. But Revit goes beyond that. Revit actually creates the opportunity to all of these designers and collaborators and stakeholders to connect together through the model. And the main reason of that is what I mentioned to you earlier in the BIM phase, because BIM is data connection of linking data between these elements. That's why we can now collaborate with other people throughout the process of the design of the building. And because it's a 3D program, because it's a three-dimensional, realistic, virtual realistic look of the building, we can actually communicate more effectively the design intent or even the final design in a 3D way, like renderings or even walkthrough in the building to make sure that everybody understands better the building. And we can even see in real time things like materials, realistic look of the elements that we're going to be using in the design process. Now, before going further to this, I would like to clarify a couple of things that BIM and Revit workflow will bring to the table. It will bring this situation. The traditional design workflow usually has been what we have been doing with by hand, or even with other, uh, computer program designs like AutoCAD or any other 2D drafting uh, way that we have been traditionally working with the design of buildings. So we need anything from plans views, section views, elevations, all of these views separate in order to create the project. And that becomes a little bit difficult then to put it together to understand the whole logistic or the whole realistic look of the building. But in the BIM design workflow, things change a little bit and for better. So the model is where we focus our attention in BIM using Revit. And when we create the model of the building, we virtually are creating a three-dimensional way to see the full building in all its dimensions. And then from there, we get those views that we use usually to, convey the idea of the final design with floor plans, elevation section, even construction documentations we can get out of the model. And the main reason why is because we're using data. Every single element in the model establish data that we can actually take and put it on the documentations. And this new design workflow with BIM and Revit is what it makes this program very, very, very fantastic for AEC industry. Now, let's talk about the program itself, or Revit. So what is the workspace of Revit? How we can interact with this program? Many people started to use it and many people are wondering what's going on here. How can I actually get to know Revit and get to know and get familiar, better to say, with the interface? I would like to show you in Revit. When you go to Revit, this is the welcome screen or the home screen that we're gonna get when we open for the first time Revit. So we have very clear kind of a small company is working and these projects are laid out there. So we have models or projects, very clear layout here. And we have another environment in Revit that can be discussed in another episode or another webinar that is about families. So just to make it a little bit clear, what is this about? So family is an environment in Revit where we create small elements or the elements that actually got inside the projects. And those two environments are managed here in the first welcome screen. You can tell that we have here the models, open or create new projects, and here in the family, same situation. But speaking about the models, when I go to any model in particular, or I start a new project, like here, when I hit new, I'm going to start a residential project, then our interface in Revit is pretty much the same like any other design drafting program. We have a big screen here where we actually going to be able to see or to work with the design. And we have in Windows base, almost all of this program, we have the ribbon here on the top that actually you can flip in between them and see the different commands that we can take, in consideration depending on the project that we pretend or we need to do. And the only difference with other programs is that we do have in Revit two main um, elements here. There is the properties palette and the project browser. And these two elements will need to be there to help us, and it will be helping us to do the design. In the properties, we're going to be able to see the parameters that we use in Revit or any element to change the data that we have been talking about. Right now, I can tell that my data is that I'm looking my view here in 1/4 of a scale here at this moment because it's actually what is the view scale is about. But I can change that data at any given moment to 1/8 of a scale, and you notice that the scale changed a little bit on my view. And here we have to navigate through all of the different views that we can have in this project. Floor plans, ceiling plans, elevations, any section view that start to create it if it's needed, any other view. It includes views like the sheets or documentations that can be preset prior or during the project. So you can tell here that I have the basement plan here. I have other plans that we can actually go to it. This is primarily the main way that we work. And in the project browser, if we actually located any view of this by going there with double click, you notice immediately switch to that view. I can switch to any other view, the south elevation, how it is preset, etc. Depending on the project that we're gonna be doing, we're gonna see more levels, 3-story, 5-story, through 10-story buildings, etc. So basically, navigating in Revit is very simple. It's just to know what kind of view we need to kind of see to work with, and it's going to be automatic set up here. One of the nicest view that we always have, especially with these programs that are three-dimensional, is this 3D view. If I double click there, I'm going to be able to see the full building in 3D. Obviously, I open an empty project ready to start to work. Now, that is primarily the way that we actually use our Revit and navigate through it. The navigation is really intuitive. The only two parts, like I mentioned earlier, will be to make sure that we have our properties palette and our project browser so that we can navigate throughout the entire building. The next things that point that we like to discuss here with us, all of us, is that how can we explore these projects? How can we set up the project and the model to start to create a project from A to Z and then be really proficient with this? I'm gonna speak about some points that are very, very important to keep in mind because when it comes to Revit is a very organizational program. So when we think about Revit or start to use Revit, we immediately we're gonna realize that Revit is very organizational. So from the very beginning, when we start a project, we need to kind of have in mind the fact that we need to kind of provide some setups and create a good consistency quality of project throughout the entire project life span. And especially remember that one of the major things that we can do with Revit is collaborate with other designers. So that will guarantee that the whole workflow of the projects will be good, consistency, well done, and then easy to understand by all of the stakeholders that are going to be taking place or working with these projects. So one of the things that I always recommend is having always in the company one individual or the same individual that set up all of these models and all of these standards quality for the company. Usually a very knowledgeable manager, consultant, or anybody that it will be actually even working by being hired by the company should be the person who will be taking responsibility for creating and ensure that there's a standard of quality for the company will be met by all of the designers and even by extension, to be shared with the other stakeholders or designers that are going to be collaborating with this project. Multiple designers or people that are going to be working in different setup for every model, like I mentioned here, is a perfect recipe for inconsistent results, misunderstanding, and really delay the project, even deadlines, because they're not a good layout standards for the project. So in Revit, that is a key. Is I will say mandatory to keep it in mind. So another thing that I always recommend, once we have this person in-house or consultant helping the company, especially with the very beginning of the company switching to Revit use, is creating documentation. That is a very interesting thing to do. Many companies forget about that. So creating instructional documents, settings very clear in a booklet or a book that will ensure that each person or each member of the team are gonna be bound by the company standards of that documentation based on the Revit template or the Revit that's going to be actually having all of these standards already preset by this manager, and then that guarantee that the consistency and quality of the entire project will be met by every single person in the project, that it will be take part of the project. So usually that should be a very good thing to do, and obviously that will be done by this person. So one of the things that many people listen or actually ask me that question is about, okay, then how do we ensure that all of these things are going to be, you know, always the same and always well organized in Revit? Well, we need to talk about Revit project template. So a good organized Revit project template, we guarantee that companies that are bound by this organization inside Revit will ensure that everything can comply by the standards of the company, by the project purposes, even sometimes, even in some uh, multinational company for different standards of the city, county codes, etc. All of those things needs to be taken care by the Revit project template. So that guarantees that that will work well for everybody that works with those projects or those files. Things that a project template might need to be in consideration are the project information, the view templates, the family content that is going to be loaded into the project, um, the project views, how they're going to be organized in the project browser. That you noticed before I show you the template that I open. Residential has pre-organized those views, and companies actually will be taking good use of that if they actually provide that to the designer, so the designers don't have to guess, don't have to try to figure it out, but actually go straight forward for that. Other things like visibility graphics overrides, print settings, title blocks, etc. of the company will be interesting. Lastly, I place here a point that many people do not know, many people are not completely clear in Revit, is that all of these projects, every single project file has project global and shareable parameters that can be well organized and then really save time in every single project. That's something should be discussed in the beginning of any company that would like to have a good organized Revit project template so that the organization works smoothly and well with Revit. So why Revit project then is so important? Why many people pay so much importance to that? I'm just laid out very simple here. When we listen that word template, we usually think about something pre-designed, something pre-organized already that is gonna be good for a start point for whoever or whatever thing it is. I always put an example of a invoice. So usually we can, in the past, usually we used to go to buy physical notebooks for invoices, and then they are kind of all of them the same. The only thing that are those are templates. So when we fill it up, immediately then becomes a document. So this is exactly more or less what I actually point out to people when we have a project template well organized. It's a pre-designed start point for every single project of the company. And those design organizational will be ensuring that everything is going to be, you know, working the same with the same patterns, the same shapes, the same things that they can be orga organized by them. Then the other thing that is in the project setup model that we need to discuss is why we need or which approaches should we consider in creating project templates. And I'm giving a lot of emphasis in the project template in this part because this is actually one of the most important tips and tricks that we need to kind of understand about Revit. So it's not necessarily how we work with Revit, but what is going to be really accomplished here. Just remember that at the beginning, Revit is a data management, linking data with another data by element. So the approach that we should be considering in creating a project template is important and depending on each individual project and companies. For example, it's not the same thing of a project template for a company that works with interior design or architectural design versus a company that works for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing design. So the templates are completely different because the disciplines is actually telling us is something different. The elements that we use in mechanical design differs a lot versus the element that an interior design company might use. So that's why when it comes to family project templates creation, there's no right or wrong direction. So it's one size fits all is not going to happen. So every single company should be considering the projects, the unique needs for the project, but more important, the unique needs for the company's standards approach, or even the policy, or even the culture of the company also will impact in why and how we can approach to create the project templates. That's why I mentioned earlier that this should be done by a person who not only understands Revit well and also how to manipulate those settings in Revit, but also understand or even go to the point to go to the company people, designers and the managers and understand the company cultures, understand the settings that the company have been using so far at this point in the drafting documentation, so to actually implement those into the project template. Should take in consideration when they actually uses somebody for doing these tasks for them. So I'm just going to demonstrate a little bit again in Revit what happens. So what really we're talking about here when we meant about the project template. I'm just going to go back again to my original home or welcome screen. When we create here a new model, which is this project, you're going to see that we have here a list of at least a minimum, you say it's residential, commercial, multidiscipline, metric, multidiscipline. So what that means are these are project templates. Now, if I browse, Revit is gonna give me this default generic list of some of the project templates that uh, Revit uses, and you can tell they are commercial, construction, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, structural analysis, system, precast detailing, etc. Those are the templates, default templates Revit give us or Autodesk give us for us to understand this. So one first thing that I'm going to mention to every single person there, professional, is that you need to understand Revit is bound by the disciplines. So our project template should be bound by that. I'm just gonna open the mechanical template to create a mechanical project. And the first thing that you're gonna notice here when it opens my first view, which is this floor plan, is that here, this floor plan established a very clear discipline, mechanical discipline. And actually, depending on the company need, establish a sub-disciplines under that, HVAC. If I click here, you're gonna see that this template has lighting, plumbing, and power. So it actually has some sub-disciplines that can be pre-established for mechanical. If you think about it, if we're gonna do mechanical HVAC design, many cases, depending on the project or the equipment that they're going to be using might need to have some kind of piping or plumbing for those equipment, and definitely power, electrical power. And in many cases, it might be now get to provide some lighting on the mechanical room, etc. So you can see that the disciplines is actually going very well with this template. But if I go back again here, let's say go to home again, and I try to open another template for another project. Let's say that I would like to go now to work with a commercial or construction project, which is very clear it will be architectural. When it opens my first view, you're going to see here that the disciplines is architectural, but they are not sub-disciplines here. You can tell here they are not sub-discipline. So what it means is that this template is bound to be more into the architectural disciplines to create this project that will be there being used by the mechanical template or the mechanical engineer to provide everything related to that. The disciplines affect directly the type or kind of work that I'm going to be doing, design, and in Revit, it's very well organized. Now, going a little bit beyond of what I mentioned earlier about the templates of what they have, what they don't have, is the fact that they have these views more related to the kind of project that it is. You can tell here, if I go to the mechanical, I'm going to see more mechanical and plumbing in this case, because most likely it's going to be, hydronic piping here. So basically, that's the point that we need to kind of keep it in mind when we do that. So talking a little bit more about our outline for today, or is getting to know well the elements in Revit. This is a very easy things to understand. It's two slides that I have here for you. So one of them is the Revit organizational hierarchy of elements. So we now know that everything that we use in our fields are elements, doors, windows, mechanical equipment. So those are actually the categories. And you can tell it's the categories. I have a very good example here, and the categories being columns. But under that category, you notice that I have column square, column rounds. If you think about it, we can actually have wood columns, precast columns, steel columns. So those are families in Revit, and we consider those families. So the category is always going to be one major element or category name, but we can have multiple families. So columns, square, and notice in types, that is a very unique word here in the way that Revit uses, means sizes. The different size of that column square that I have, 18 by 18, 12 by 12, 8 by 8, etc. So this is the only way that, the only hierarchy. There's nothing else that we need to learn or worry about. It's always going to be categories, families, and types. So notice here, and under the Revit categories, we have very clear categories: model elements, data elements, view elements. So views elements are all of the views that we discussed earlier. Any view that I can use to see my project. Floor plans, elevations, sections, documents. Data elements are actually the one levels and structural grids that establish points on the space. And models elements, I usually say, if you think about a model element, something that you can purchase or something that you need to build from scratch. So usually we build from scratch columns, walls, bury the foundation, etc. But we need to buy probably doors and windows to put it on the project, or to start to do our project. So anything that is buildable or purchasable, like I always say, that is a model element. So there's no reason to stress out with this. Then each of these guys will have a family or might not have different families. It depends. Now, family is a very common terminology in Revit. I'm going to show you here. So now the hierarchy of the families, because like I mentioned to you, wood columns versus concrete columns. So the families in Revit are three kinds of: system families, lateral families, in-place families. Very straightforward. System families created by Revit, predefined by Revit. We have some controls, but not all of the controls, and that will be pre-established by the Revit template. Loadable families, everything that we purchase or we bring in from the manufacturers. And in-place families is very similar to loadable families, but unique. It's only have to be created in that moment in that project. So those are the two main hierarchy of projects in Revit. Now, the last point is our, time saving techniques in Revit. I have some of them. There are so many that it's impossible to cover all of that in this webinar. But one of the first things that I'm going to mention to you is the keyboard shortcuts. So use the keyboards. Revit, like any other program, graphics, especially graphic design programs, have shortcuts. Actually, in the help of Revit, you're gonna find out shortcuts list in PDF form and even in Excel form for everybody who wants to go there in the help and go to those shortcuts. It's gonna be completely, again, difficult to get to know them all, but I'm gonna give you with these key tips in Revit, I'm going to show you where you can actually see the shortcuts and some of them. So if I switch to Revit, if you are in any of this view, if I hold or use the Alt key, you're going to notice that these are actually showing me here. These letters are the shortcuts for these guys. So very straightforward. And it depends. If I click aside, it will deselect uh, hide those guys. But if I go back again, then I'm going to show you the shortcuts here for the system. So in every single one of these, if you actually type in the Alt key, you're going to see the shortcuts for those elements there. Very easy to kind of remember, very easy to learn those. That is one of the nice tip and trick that I have for there. Another one is that discovering the shortcuts and time saving is avoiding the double click. In all of these programs, I'm gonna back again to Revit. In all of these programs that we actually have a double click of the mouse, click, 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 and sometimes that is not a good help in Revit. So if I bring, for example, in this Revit file, this element, oh, I did it, this element, if I double click, it's gonna take me most likely to editing this element into the family. And many people don't like it. So I'm gonna give you the tip and trick on how to fix that. It's simple, going to the options bar here, and then in the user interface, we can actually customize the double click here, the double click options. So here with the double click options, you see when we double click in a family, it says edit the family. Well, sometimes it's annoying, sometimes it's not good. We would like to probably set it up here very easily. Do nothing when we double click, just stay there. Those are little things that annoying some people. You see now I double click, double click, double click here, and it's happening nothing. But it's another small tip and trick that I'm gonna give it to you. Another one that is very useful is the copy and paste methodology. So the copy and paste, we have been using that in all of these programs all the time. And I'm gonna just open a quick a file that I'm gonna give you the best tip and trick for the copy and paste. So when we going to copy and paste here, uh, this is gonna be a good one to use. So most of the time in working with these large buildings, we have like a typical floor plan, and this floor plan will go all the way up to there. So instead of doing floor by floor, what I can do is just simple gonna select my whole, in this view even, my whole floor plan. I do have it completely done in the second floor, and you go to copy here in the copy and clipboard. It's a little bit different than the copy with the Control C, etc. Now, if you go back again to the paste, you're gonna notice here in the paste that you can actually paste to select levels. So it will bring to you all of the levels available. And if I select now, for example, that this is going to be a typical floor plan from level 2 to level 5, I just simply select those levels, and Rev is going to do the rest. It's going to actually copy and paste to this level in the exact location, one in the top of the other, all of these elements. and automatic I have now my building created. If I go now to the third floor, this is my third floor and so forth. So that's another tip that is many people don't use it too much in copy and paste because it's a little bit different than other programs like AutoCAD, but that can be something very nice. Lastly, I would like to show you because the time is really going fast is this part, the knowing and using the different selection modes and filters. I kind of like these two friends here because it's sometimes we don't do that in Revit very well. Is the using when we do a base selection using the filter. The filter can tell you or narrow your selection the best way that you want. If you only want to select walls, you can actually uncheck the other ones or check none and check the walls, and when you apply it, you're going to see that you're going to have walls. This is a very no use very often for many people and a nice capability to do this. If all of these walls need to be changed, then you have them all in one. Sometimes people do the crossing window selection mode, but you only need to select the doors or the windows, etc. So you go here and then you're gonna be able to do this. And many people actually, I found out that very interesting. Many people don't use it to the full. So one thing that I want to mention to you lastly is to keep it in mind that having the right hardware will help a lot. And the company or you as an individual, if you're working with Revit as a sole uh, designer in the Revit. This is a very interesting saving technique. Many companies and many people thinking that having any computer will help. The good thing about Autodesk give us the actually the story of what will be the best right hardware to be used for Revit at the minimum specs, and we can actually check that in Autodesk.com. Lastly, what I would like to tell everybody is that never stop learning. So Revit is a very powerful program. There's so much to learn. I try to share as much as possible in this webinar, getting to know those terms like being, Revit, etc., and some small tips and tricks to share with you. So I believe there might be some of you with questions. So let me see if there's any question that I can help.
Thank you, Roger. That was most informative. I know everyone is looking forward to the Q&A session, so go ahead and start putting your questions into the questions panel. And now I'd like to give the presentation rights over to Robin, our vendor manager, to introduce our promotions and webinar-related courses.
Thank you for extending to me this opportunity to speak with our attendees today. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for attending this webinar on tips and tricks to optimize your Revit experience. I sincerely hope that it added value to your knowledge of using the Autodesk Revit software. In case you feel like revisiting this session for any future reference, please feel free to do so by clicking on the access recording button, and we would be more than happy to make it readily available to you. Next, I would like to offer you a glimpse of NETCOM Learning's capabilities and why we are the best that there is when it comes to learning services, training, talent development, and beyond. I take pride to announce that NETCOM Learning is the winner of 2023 Microsoft US Learning Partner of the Year award. NETCOM Learning has been into the managed learning space for 2.5 decades now and have provided its services to 80% of Fortune 1000 companies. Having a strong reputation in B2G sector, NETCOM Learning has served over 100 US military bases. We have trained over 1 million professionals to learn and grow in their respective fields across 36,000 enterprise clients. We also cherish a recommendation rate of 96% from our customers. All the numbers I've just mentioned have been a result of our specially curated trainings delivered by a portfolio of 3,000 plus certified trainers. Moving ahead, being an authorized Autodesk Learning Partner, I would like to give you an overview of the NETCOM Learning upcoming schedule of courses from Autodesk that are highly recommended for you to expand your horizon and knowledge of using Autodesk softwares and tools. To add value to your learning curve, we also encourage you to access our free on-demand trainings and blog posts related to Autodesk trainings. You can also take advantage from Learning Passport, which is NETCOM Learning's solution to a flexible team training. It is designed to be customized in line with the number of learners you plan to train from top technology vendors like Microsoft, Cisco, Adobe, PMI, and more. The single package can be redeemed over 4,000 plus official courses with a validity of 12 months. Keeping in mind the requirement of our customers, you can further choose from Learning Savings Passport or Learning Vouchers Passport as per your need and requirement. Next, I would like to introduce you to NETCOM Plus Learner Subscription, a learning solution that we have developed for our enterprise customers. All you are required to do is invest one time and reap the benefits of unlimited access to authorized training from top technology vendors like Microsoft, AWS, Cisco, and more through a span of 12 months. As displayed on your screen, we deliver these subscriptions in three types of packages. First, the free or the silver package that allows you to access 300 plus e-learning modules. Or further, you can go for gold at $199. That gives you an access to 400 plus e-learning modules along with silver package benefits. Next, we have for you our best selling and most popular platinum package, which is available at $2,999. That gives you an access to 400 plus e-learning modules and 120 plus virtual instructor-led trainings in addition to the gold package. We would also highly recommend you go through NETCOM Learning's website for more information on courses and certifications, our free virtual events, our blogs, and our running promotions. In case you're looking for a leadership point of view on the importance of lifelong learning and building a smarter workforce, we highly recommend that you go through the book Building an Innovative Learning Organization by Russell Sado, CEO NETCOM Learning. You can easily find this on Amazon. Finally, I sincerely hope that we could add value to your knowledge base in the time you choose to spend with us during this webinar. For more information on such knowledgeable sessions and latest updates on IT and business training, please follow and give us a shout out on our LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter channels. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thanks so much for guiding us through all that information, Robin. And now we're going to go ahead and jump right into our question and answer session. If you haven't yet, it's not too late to pop your questions into the question panel. And as we start our Q&A sessions, we're also going to launch a quick poll that we want to invite you to participate in. Doing so helps us to know how we can better serve you by telling us who might be interested in more information or in taking some additional training. In addition, we have a lot more informative webinars coming up, so please go to netcomlearning.com/webinars in order to register. First question we have up for today in the queue is, what will be the best approach for creating company Revit project templates, and where do we start?
Good questions. Actually, I can refer to I think that's exactly to one of the slides that I shared before. What's the best approach? Yeah, this one. So one of the best approach for a company to go to start a project template is first determine, usually the companies knows the discipline. So I'm on a architectural discipline. I'm going to be creating only architectural projects or a multidisciplinary discipline. So if it's in the latter, the case of many companies are multiple disciplines, the good thing will be approaching each of those disciplines in a separate template. One side doesn't fix all. So do not expect one template to show everything or every single discipline. The disciplines in Revit are very powerful on the templates. That will be one of the approach. The other approach is, and might sound a little bit interesting, is that get somebody who knows Revit well, and you can sit down with this person, whether you hire that person for 3 4 months or 6 months, or until the company feel comfortable enough to be running with Revit, or as a consultant outside of the company that can actually provide that to the company for a short period of time, that knows well Revit and will actually try to understand the company standards. And then that will be the best approach, I will say, to considering creating a project template.
Why is it so important to have a Revit manager consultant when a company is trying to make the move to Revit?
It's important because a Revit consultant who knows Revit will assist the people in the company, or the managers, or even the designers, to establish how the projects that they do, and the way that they do, or even the way that they would like to do now from this point on with Revit, ensure that they match. So match the standards and match the way that the template of the Revit will work for them. And this person is the best person to know the easiest way to make those transitions from any other system, like a CAD system to BIM system, seamless for everybody. That person will create not only the standards, but when this person study, understand, both parts. When I say both parts, the company standards plus knowing Revit way to do things, a workflow, then it's going to be the best person to kind of match those two and make it seamless, the transition for the company.
What is the role of a proper Revit training when embarking on making the move to Revit?
Well, that's a very important question. I mean, the role of the training is super important. As I show in the entire presentation, Revit is a very broad program. It has a lot to learn here, and this the word that I hate the most, figure it out, don't click here. So if a person pretends to really use Revit, or a company wants to embark in Revit to start to do their projects, they should take in consideration good training, fundamental trainings, advanced trainings later on, to the people that if they're going to be working with Revit. Training for Revit is important. It's as important as having a project template, because if people will sit down there and try to click there and here to try to figure it out without knowing the workflow in how Revit works, and how actually the template for the company, whoever is doing it for them, will work, is like as useless as, no using, Revit at all. So it's going to be much more uh, complicated along the road. So training, I always want to say, training is a must to be in a company when they're switching to Revit.
Once again, I want to remind you that as you leave the session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to help us by taking a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience as we are constantly looking at how we can improve our future sessions. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. We want to thank all of you for joining us today, and if you do come up with any additional questions, feel free to send them to webinar@netcomlearning.com at any time. We hope that you found today's webinar informative, and we look forward to seeing you back here with us soon. Feel free to tell your friends and colleagues about our webinars and other courses. Have a great day, everyone.